All right, being 5:30, I'll now call to, where'd it go? Being 5:30, I'll now call the regular meeting of the town of Lake Placid to order this 9th day of January, the year 2023, in the Government Center, town of Lake Placid. If everybody would please rise, I'll ask our police chief if he would lead us in invocation. Either one, I don't care if you want to do it.
Well, when the chief of police says so, then let's pray together. Lord, we are grateful to live in this awesome town. Of all the places you could have put us in the world, this is where you stuck us, and we are grateful for that. And I thank you for the leaders that you've appointed, and I pray that you would give them your wisdom as they make decisions that honor you and serve our community best. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Holbrook.
Here.
Councilmember Royce.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Sapp.
Here.
Councilmember Hayes.
Here.
We'll go to consent agenda 1, A through E.
I move to approve consent agenda 1, A through E.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the podium?
Did you second? Okay.
Okay, hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. Bring it back. Poll the council, please.
Councilmember Sapp.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Councilmember Royce.
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Okay, and the number 3, presentations, request to speak. We have Highlands County Fire EMS status update. Before we do that, we have a special guest I'd like to introduce is our new Highlands County Administrator, Lori Herner. Welcome. Wherever. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us tonight. I understood that you guys need an update on the
on.
firehouse.
Yeah, it's on. Just try to speak into it a little more.
Sorry about that. Is that good? You good?
It sounds like it's on.
There we go. Is that better?
There we go.
That worked. Good deal. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight. I know that this has been a long, drawn-out process, and I know we've been here and there and around the block with everything that's gone on. I first want to address the letter that you guys sent us on December the 19th. The second interlocal agreement, I'm sorry, we were under the impression that that had been signed by Commissioner Rapp when she was still chair and sent back to you. So they're running that down. If it has not been signed, we'll get it to sign. But we didn't have any problems with the interlocal. Everything was good. So apologize for that. We thought that was already taken care of and sent back to you. As far as the fire station, I have some good news. We are moving forward. It feels like we haven't done anything in a long time, but we had some things we needed to jump through once we moved from the hospital site to the site that we're working on with the town. You'll be happy to know that a certified survey has been finished. A lot of people were pushing, why do we have to have that? Why can't we get an old survey? Because of what we were doing, and with the firehouse, we had to have a certified survey. That's all finished, it's done. We gave that to Sweet Sparksman, who's our architects. That was given to them back right at Christmas. So that's taken care of and off the list. We have a meeting with them, I think it's the first of next week, maybe Tuesday. Wharton Smith is on board. They're still moving forward with the plans. And as you know, they wanted to make sure that, or you all wanted to make sure that we could use the driveway next to the station, not only for us, but so that you all could also access the site. So they were working through that as well. The best news that I have for you today that may mean more to some than others is that our natural resources assessment has come back. We've met with FWC. We do not need a cover board survey for skinks. We do not need to mitigate for gophers. We do not need to do any of that. We, of course, looking at the site, could have told you that, but that's what we had to do to move through the process. So everything is moving forward. It's a priority. It's on the top of my priority list. I meet with my planning staff and with my folks that are working on this project every 2 weeks. So it's on the top of mind for me. It's on the top of mind, of course, for the fire chief and for the firemen who are here and who want to continue to be here. We do not, at this point in time, want to change anything about the second interlocal. We hope to be moving forward and breaking ground and doing those things by the timeframes that are in the interlocal. We will come to you and Ray, I know we had agreed to have you guys as part of the discussions as we move forward for the firehouse. Those meetings will start again as we're moving forward in earnest, and so I'll be looking for those invitations as well. So we don't have any holdups at this point in time. Nothing is backing off. The holidays are the holidays, not using it as an excuse, but so, you know, folks, when you work with folks, they're moving at their own pace. So everybody's back at work, everybody's doing what they need to be doing, and we're excited. We want to build a firehouse.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Well, for one, I appreciate the update.
Sure.
And I think once this gets out, the community will be pleased also.
I apologize it took so long for us to get it to you.
Well, hey, things happen.
You bet.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can we ask Ms. Herner while she's here, can you, because I got asked by a constituent,
Okay.
can you update us on the hurricane debris removal? I believe I heard you say the other day that the collection is finished in the county and that you're now going on state roads and in municipalities. So what, if any, further collection is going to happen in the town of Lake Placid?
Sure. As our county runs are finished, we've gotten all of that taken care of and picked up. We also, any of missed streets or perceived missed piles of debris, we've taken care of all of those calls. We've followed up with all of those with our FEMA reps and gotten those taken care of. When they talk about municipalities and other streets, DOT made one pass through the county on their roads, and we were responsible for a follow-up pass. That pass was earlier this week. I know that, late last week, and so I know that they should be finishing up in the municipalities by tomorrow. So if there's anything that you have left anywhere or there's any kind of problems, please bring those to our attention as soon as you can. We did have some problems early on, and we think we worked through all of them. If we did not, they need to contact us, but we had to have written agreements with HOAs of places that were behind gates and those kind of things. So we had to have those agreements signed so that our folks could go in and pick up that material. So if there's anything left out there, you need to call us as soon as possible and let us know.
I just want to make sure the message to the media that may be watching this meeting from home is, you're done.
Yes, sir.
People should not be putting things out in the right of way and expecting that it's going to get picked up as hurricane debris anymore, correct?
No, sir, that is correct.
Okay, I got to ask that question, and I know even in our neighborhood, I got to ask that question. So I just want to make sure we were very clear with people about that.
We're
Thank
very
you.
happy to pick up hurricane debris and help with that. As we continued along through the process, we kept getting more green debris, but we continued to pick that up, but we're now done with the process. And just so that you'll know, from a county side, we did much quicker than we did in Irma. We received our first reimbursement back from FEMA, over $6 million last Friday. So things are moving much quicker in that process as well.
And if I might, again, Mr. Mayor, obviously, the town of Lake Placid has a interlocal with you all in regards to debris.
Yes, sir.
And I would hope that if there is, I would hope, number one, that the town does not owe the county any money and that the county gets fully reimbursed. But I'm assuming if there is a perception that we may owe something, you all will let us know that as soon as possible so we can have that discussion.
Yes, sir, and you would have known before now. We would have updated you at a much earlier date than now. We had a fantastic team put together at the county to go through all of those bills and those contracts and things that happened. So everything's being reimbursed by FEMA, so we're in good shape at this point in time.
And maybe Mr. Harris, or maybe you can, as I remember, that agreement was just an annual agreement, and so do we need to like re-sign up now for next season?
Interestingly enough, as they begin to talk about not having a hurricane season in the state of Florida, having it be year-round, which is an interesting new conversation that we have, we have been talking about that. That's on legal's agenda, so you'll be hearing from them in the next month to get those ready for next June hurricane
Okay,
season.
thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Laurie, I have a question in terms of cubic yards of vegetative material compared to Irma. Do you ballpark cubic yards?
I can get you the cubic yards. I'm sorry, I don't have those with me tonight, but I will tell you that it was much lighter than Irma.
Yeah.
We had much more of a water issue in Highlands County than we did a debris issue in Highlands County this
I
time.
think the last storm took a lot of suspect materials out, so.
It did very well, and also, as we did at our meeting, I can give a shout out to the power companies. The power companies have continually gone through and made sure that vegetation's not in the way of lines and those things since Irma. They've been having annual plans, and so that has made it a lot better also as far as debris. But I can get you those numbers exact. We can send them to you.
I was just curious because I've speaking to some people in DeSoto County, and
Yes, sir.
theirs were even higher than Irma's.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so just, some people were concerned about the fact that it took so long to get through the process, but we just have to remember that our friends on the coast were much more impacted than we were in Highlands County. And quite frankly, they use the same contractors for debris removal as we do. So we were kind of competing back and forth. And once we get a contract with the company, they choose where to send the crews. So some days we may have had 20, some days we may have had 5. So that's why it's taken a little longer than we first expected.
I commend everyone. It was a very quick process.
Thank you.
And if I might, Mr. Mayor, while Ms. Herner's looking at that, apparently Alan's gonna give her some data. The other thing that the town and the county had partnered in a consultant study on some stuff for downtown. So Lori, if you don't mind asking Leah or Melanie or whatever, what the status of the work that was being done. I know we were paying for some of it, the county was paying for some of it.
Yes.
In particular, the intersection of North Main and Dell Hall. Someone, I think, told me a couple weeks ago they thought that work was about done, but if you don't mind, especially since we don't have as much conversation with Leah and Melanie nowadays,
Certainly.
if they can look into that and see where we're at with that study, it'd be much appreciated. And thank you for your work on behalf of the county. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. This gentleman was nice enough, Charlie, we can give you the total. So the cumulative for Lake Placid was 16,867 total cubic yards. Thank you, sir. We look forward to working with the town of Lake Placid as we have in the past. We feel like we have a fantastic relationship, and we want that to continue. Leah did report this morning in our directors meeting that was coming to a close, and they should have that information shortly. So
Thank you,
we'll get
Lori.
that to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for coming,
Absolutely.
and you're welcome to stay if you want to.
Thank you.
Okay. I see no public hearings. We'll now go to 5A, which is discussion for establishing Stewart Park as the primary area for the farmers market and food trucks.
Mr. Mayor, I'd ask Mr. Williams to put that on there, and alls I guess I would ask of my fellow council members is when we had the conversation about the farmer's market road closure on North Main, I believe that both Mr. Sapp and Ms. Hayes said at the time to me, hey, if we're gonna do the right thing, then let's do it now and not do this. And we had talked about designating a street or an area to have these kinds of things in the future. And as I've traveled around in other states and frankly, even in other countries recently, I've seen more and more farmers markets, festivals, events, and more and more it makes me believe that we ought to establish an area, and I would suggest that it's Stewart Avenue, which is immediately on the west side of Stewart Park, as the location that in the future, if people want to ask to have a farmer's market, a food truck event, any kind of event that we set that area, we set that area up as the place we have it. We put together a set of protocols, to Ms. Hayes's point from last meeting, on how you go about making applications for it, set a fee structure. And if we do that area, then it's something I think in the future, maybe we even use some CRA funds to improve the lighting there or other infrastructure there, but that once the approval for the farmer's market, which hasn't been acted upon yet, runs its course here in a couple of months, that we ought to set that up as the place where those types of activities go. And so if I can get agreeance, I would just encourage staff to kind of start to think about or work on a plan on coming back to us on if that's the appropriate area. I think it impacts very few residents, very few businesses. It's an appropriate place basically in the geographic center of town that may be perfect for that kind of thing. So that was just my suggestion. And if I can find a couple of friends on this issue, then maybe we can ask Phil and Alan and others to work on what would potentially need to happen down there.
You have two friends, at least.
I have a note here from, and I looked through all the minutes and finally found it. And of course, I failed to make note of what minutes this is from. But at any rate, it says, motion moved by Councilmember Royce, second by Councilmember Wilson, to allow the farmer's market, blah, blah, blah. But number 2, in the event that the farmer's market applicant decides to hold the farmer's market at a different location, the town allows the market to utilize Stewart Park, Park Street, or Stewart Street, which will include the provisions of property insurance and with the more limited costs associated. So I think we were already headed down that road, which is where, frankly, I wanted us to head in the first place. So I'm certainly in agreement, and you say it much more eloquently than I do. So it's very nice.
Well, you all reminded me at the time that you thought that was the appropriate thing. Obviously, the business community in North Main had asked us to allow it to take place down there, and we decided to go that direction. And this, it really is not related to that. I just think that going forward, it's important that there be protocols in place that this is the normal place, and this is who can, staff can approve it and come up with a fee schedule and do so that if the chamber wants to have an event. Now, there will still be, I presume, unique situations where we will close other areas for parades and for bigger festivals or maybe some quarterly event, but we need to have a place that if someone wants to have the big, huge community yard sale, or, they want to have, a bicycle rally or, an airboat show or something, that we utilize that street next to that park. And I would prefer that most of the activity primarily happens on that street, and that the park then be used for, people to go sit and enjoy and relax, and that we don't beat up the park so much as keep that stuff on the asphalt. And while I was doing this traveling, I just noticed in other places, they've even have ballards or ballast or whatever you want to call them, columns that removable at the end of the street where they can close it down. There's lighting across the street. And I just think that we ought to consider And it may take several years to do all of those things, but we ought to start towards how do we create a nice environment to have those kinds of things, so.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We'll take it to the audience. Is there any comments, suggestions? Okay, we'll bring it back and we'll put that in the packet for further consideration. All right, next is 5D1, banking services.
Mr. Mayor, staff is ready to recommend a bank after the RFP that we put out, 2022-01. Heartland National Bank came in as the top bank. I don't know how council wants to handle this exactly. Because of a conflict that Mr. Harris had, we have to have a outside attorney. Pam Carlson has agreed to handle it for us. I don't know if you want to appoint her attorney and then move on from there. I also have a resolution in the same package because Mr. Kleiner, the bank president, asked for a resolution in this particular case appointing the signers. This is the first time that's been done, but it's no problem to do it. So we might as well just get, if Heartland Bank is the one that you choose to go with, we might as well go ahead and get the resolution out of the way at the same time.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I'll be prepared to make a motion to go that route. I perceive that through emails I've seen, Ms. Carlson has reviewed some documents, including perhaps the resolution or the agreement. So, I mean, I think it might be appropriate if Ms. Carlson does not raise any legal objections, then hopefully we can move forward.
One part was vague about actually shareholders in the bank voting. That was the only thing I had a concern about. I don't want to create a problem running something down the road after we make this decision.
Yeah, I'm a shareholder at the bank, and I don't feel like I should vote.
Well, I don't think it was vague at all. I think it was determined that if you have stock or whatever in the bank, you cannot vote. But I'll let her, I'll let her do that.
It's my opinion that with respect to stock ownership, you would not have to recuse yourself unless you felt like your interests were not significantly diluted. There was some concern mentioned by the Ethics Commission. I looked up an ethics opinion on this, and there's even discussion of the fact that the ongoing business or ongoing conflict is an exemption. It's a specific exemption to the ethics rule. The issue is, do you have a conflict of interest, which means a situation where you're going to have a special private gain or loss, or whether you're going to be unable to set aside your personal interest in favor of the town's interest. They look at things like this, the size of the class of the voting, the nature of the interest, the degree to which the interest of all the members are affected by the vote. There may be a situation where one of you owns a significant portion, like if you own 10 shares, or do you own 5,000 shares, right? That's the kind of thing we're evaluating. I don't think that just owning the shares is an automatic problem. The Florida Ethics Commission specifically talks about an exemption that applies to prohibitive employment and business relationships. And it says when the business transacted in question is the deposit of agency funds in a bank to which the city or a district official is an officer, director, or stockholder, so long as the agency records show that the governing body has determined that the member did not favor his or her bank over other qualified banks, then there's not a problem with that. And so, you know, the issue here is transparency. That's what the, you know, we're looking for. We're looking for situations where we don't have this, you know, appearance of a conflict, and where there's no private special gain or loss, and where there's not a situation where we have this, where we don't fall within an exception to the commission opinion. So while some people may feel like they need to still abstain, and that's going to be your personal decision, and you're going to fill out, if you choose to abstain, you're going to fill out a memorandum explaining why you're abstaining, and that may be where you land. But each particular person is going to have to look at the level of their, again, their ownership. Do you own 10 shares? Do you own 1,500 shares? That's my legal opinion. And you have a opinion of your staff who said that there's, you know, I can't see the screen, but the percentage, the points that were rendered, you know, that the Heartland National Bank had the highest number of points. There were only 2 banks that submitted RFP responses to the RFP. So I don't think that you have a situation where you're going to have a member who's clearly, you know, favoring one institution over another, when you've already got a staff opinion that says that there's, you know, the difference was 8, 9, 10, 11 points. But that's where I'm going to fall on this, is I think that if you own shares and it's a significant number of shares, and there's an appearance that you're, or even a possibility that you're going to have some kind of special private gain or loss as a result of this vote, then you should abstain. But if you don't think that you're going to have a special private gain or loss, I think you could still vote.
Okay. I guess it comes back just to what you want to do.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-1.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments from the podium? Seeing none, we'll take it to the audience. Okay, bring it back. Poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
I abstain. I own stock in Heartland National Bank, and I've filed the appropriate paperwork with the clerk.
Councilmember Hayes?
I abstain, same reason, and the paperwork is right here.
Okay. Okay, next is the Carlson Agreement.
5D2, request of the utility direct. Oh, we want to do, you had more to do on that?
Well,
That's to approve our payment?
yeah,
I move to approve that as well.
okay,
Second.
okay.
Sorry.
I just thought that should be part of the record.
Of course.
Did you all obtain copies of my opinion regarding some of the instruments that were in question, and some of the language that was in those instruments? And did you want to authorize me to work on getting those agreements modified in accordance with the changes that I recommended?
We have to ask our other attorney if he thinks that's necessary. Do you think that's necessary? Is it just creating work? Do we need to do this? You probably wouldn't have brought it up if you didn't think it needed to be done.
I wouldn't have mentioned it if I didn't think it was things that you should at least consider. I mean,
Are you covering bases? Are you creating work for yourself? I don't want to waste time if we don't need to.
I just saw something referencing it, but
so a lot of the items that I brought up were just to bring your attention to things, and so they weren't actually things that I thought needed to be changed. One of the items in the wire transfer agreement mentions that the bank is authorized to make a charge on the account, even if the action would create an overdraft of the account. My opinion was that I would think that you would want that not to be authorized, that if there was going to be a wire authorized, then it would overdraft your account.
Yeah, I think a reasonable list would probably be in order.
A reasonable what?
List of your recommendations would be in order then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was not frivolous work. I mean, I was really trying to keep the town's interest at heart when I was looking at this. There weren't, I mean, like I said, a lot of it was like security procedures, making sure that you were aware of the records retention requirements, making sure you're aware that the representations that you were making were true and correct. And so I just wanted to make sure that, that all of that that there was an opportunity for that to be taken into consideration.
I would generally trust that the bank would do business the way the bank does business, but in your profession, you deal with wire transfers all the time. So I think recommendations and sending a letter back would be appreciated. And we can
Yeah, I will
discuss
say
that
in
next time.
support of Councilman Sapp's motion, I think we're going to vote to retain the services of Ms. Carlson. And I think we should invest a small amount of time in letting her do that, given the nature of this and the optics of it, probably more than anything. Let's just make sure that that we have gone through that I was about to say every I don't mean we have to dot every I and cross every T, but that we go through this, and if there's anything at all that could even be considered questionable, it's handled, and we hire a few hours of Ms. Carlson's time to make sure it's done correctly. I don't think it's going to be a significant number of hours, right, Ms. Carlson?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Take it to the audience. All right, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
I guess I still abstain from this because it's in reference to,
Councilmember Hayes?
I'll abstain for the same reason. It's still connected to the bank issue.
Okay. Okay. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I think.
All right, 5D2, utilities, RPAC fund request.
Kelly, you want to speak to this?
Yes, council members, I guess you'll remember you approved this summer a budget and rate increase that after 6 years, not anticipating that a number of other items would impact us so severely, lightning strikes and hurricanes. So they've had a fairly significant impact on our capital funds. In addition, y'all approved, we've hit the capital reserve fund pretty hard for part of the expansion projects of what's working with the $40 million grant. So we do have a pot of money that's sitting there that y'all have not allocated all of it. And so I would request, so that we can keep moving forward with some of the projects, that we would be allowed to expend some of the ARPA funds. If not, I'll have a fairly light year for the rest of the budget year and part of next year, but it's entirely up to you. But we could keep moving forward if we can expend some of those funds. Now, there is still a question, and Joe may want to address the pipe bursting project. It's scheduled to go out to bid soon, so there may be some additional funds, but we did anticipate that out of the capital reserve fund, not out of necessarily ARPA funds, but that is another option based on that grant agreement of where you take those funds if we're short on that bid process. But just wanted you to see the request, see what we were looking at trying to do, and if you agree, then I need your approval if there's any other discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're going to have several other potential use of these ARPA funds, and so I would hate to obligate all of the requests. I think maybe it'd be appropriate to allocate some ARPA funds to provide the utility funds some relief, but I would hope that maybe we would commit at this time $100,000 or $150,000, and some of this other stuff, I mean, I'm assuming this is, as I see the explanation, this is maintenance, this is something that the utility fund should be paying for. These are things that happen in the course of doing business.
Yeah, if we can get to next rate adjustment, we can make up for it then, but this will need to be added to it. We can't keep taking money from other places.
And I mean, and if we ultimately decide not to expend ARPA funds in other areas, and we're starting to get up to the period where it's use it or lose it, then we can do that. But I'll make a motion to utilize, at this time, to request that staff bring us a budget request to utilize $100,000 of the ARPA fund for the Utilities Department for these purposes.
Can you find money in other areas to cover the difference of that? Is that going to do you any good?
Well, certainly we can move forward on parts of the projects. So that's, like I said, anything will help, and the other parts will postpone. I mean, we've got everything covered in the utility because of the rate increase. We had, before the rate increase, we virtually had no capital, so we were down to where we weren't doing any projects because it'd been 6 years. So this, we anticipated doing projects. Some of those will just get delayed, but that's fine. None of this is urgent.
Good.
So we'll be fine. I appreciate some of it, so.
I'll second the 100,000, and let's continue this conversation when it's time to discuss budgets and rate increases again.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Seeing none from the podium, we'll go to the audience. Okay, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Okay. 5D3.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to update everyone on the generator. I just got an email today from Central Contracting that they have an important piece that they've been waiting on. So that project should be moving ahead by the end of this month. That generator for
The one for here.
yeah,
Okay,
at
good.
least starting. It's a pretty big project, but at least starting.
Okay.
5D3.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the town administrator putting a plan before you to hire a full-time planner. Looking back over the years, the calendar years that you have in front of you from 1999 to 2006 was the cost of the planners. Back whenever I asked Rachel, we were considering looking at somebody else beside the county, and we were paying them $35,000 a year, and we were considering looking at somebody else. And I had Rachel go back, and back in 2006, that's what it was. So far, and I'm not saying that they're charging too much. I mean, that's what planners get. I mean, you know, this is not anything against LaRue Planning or Mr. LaRue or anything like that. But you're paying pretty much what it's gonna take to just hire somebody as a full-time planner and just have them on staff.
I agree. We had a good discussion last month, and I think hiring or considering hiring someone full-time on staff would be a better deal, and it'd be a better resource for all of us instead of having to, in fairness to Jim, he's doing a fine job as far as I know, but we would have better control of if we could do something in-house, in this case, with a qualified person. And I saw the application requirements on here. Unless there's further discussion, I'd make a motion to go ahead and approve hiring somebody for those qualifications under the terms you have there.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there other comments?
When you say hiring, are you going to post the position?
Yes. He had a list of qualifications there. We could go ahead and advertise for it and see what we get. Using LaRue meanwhile, and even during the transition, continuing to use them for the first month or two. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there, but for right now, I think a little expedition to see what we get might be nice and put us in a better position for making a good decision.
Do you feel like we have everything covered in that job description?
I'm not sure. This
Yeah.
is my first time. I took, with the
Well, I was-
planner, I took the county's planning and got Leah to send me all of their stuff. And I'm calling it a director. One of the people that I spoke to, that's very interested in the position, said that she'd like to be, if she decided to do it, she'd like to be a manager because it helped her license.
I see,
And she'd have to have a manager's designation in some respect.
I see,
And I talked to Joe, if you want to comment as well. Joe works very closely with the planners, and technically on the thing, planning's under him on our organizational chart. So
Right.
I'd like for him to weigh in on the plan as well.
Yeah, I agree with this course of action, and it doesn't matter to me whether or not they're under me. I think we would be working side by side regardless.
Greg, was there something on there, on the responsibilities, duties and responsibilities that you think we're missing on there?
It'll be fluid. It's something we can change as time goes along, but this will start the process and we can
Okay.
figure it out as we go.
Okay,
As far as a manager title, I don't think that's important to the town. As long as the role's being filled, that's not gonna matter,
right.
The title's just a title.
certainly.
As long as it helps her, if she takes the job, well, then
Yes.
let it be, yeah.
I mean, and one of the messages I sent to Ray, I think Taco Bell was saying, Mr. LaRue was saying, sorry for the delay. And one of the things that council said was, they're just tired of delays and see if we can't speed the process up. And I mean, the reason, going to Fort Myers is not going to speed the process up, so.
Well, and it costs LaRue a considerable amount of money to come over for a meeting. I think,
You're right.
I was just looking up the number again. He came to one meeting, it was like $1,500 to come to one LPA meeting.
But, you know,
Someone in-house, that
I
$1,500
mean,
would go a lot further.
personally, I see this as nothing but a plus for the town.
I agree.
I think we're gonna save money, we're gonna get stuff done a lot quicker and a lot more efficient, and it's just gonna make the town, in my estimation, look better and work more efficient. So that's just my thoughts. Do you have a comment, sir?
Yes, sir. Dustin Woods, chairman of the local planning agency and zoning. And I urge you guys to make this decision as well. We had a workshop just to start the year off to kind of get our ideas together of where we're headed and all the things that we need to do. And by the end of the meeting, realized we had sent our for-hire town planner with a whole bunch of marching orders and had no idea how much money we just cost you guys. And so I gave him a call, told him to press pause, let's have a couple of meetings. I just realized how little elasticity we have with planning and zoning, because we want to submit ultimately to how much it's going to cost the town. This puts us in a position where the elasticity of how we can use their services is going to be based on just time and availability in their schedules. So that'll really help with the trajectory of things that impact us. So I urge you, I shouldn't say we, I urge you to make this decision.
Should help you tremendously.
Oh, tremendously. Yeah, because we really need to do an overhaul on land development regulations. I mean, we have some stuff that is just going to take a lot of time over a long period of time. And having a per hour type guy helping. As great as Mr. LaRue is, we'll never get through that. We wouldn't be able to afford that process. So I certainly recommend you to consider that.
Thank you. Any other comments from the podium? All right, we'll take it to the audience. Bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
All right, 5D4, Lake June Park and pickleball courts.
Okay. Councilmember Wilson and I had a meeting with Poston Engineering. Based on that meeting, we come up with a tentative plan, and Poston said that you need to have things that you're, a direction that you're going in, even though you may not have to, you don't have to build this stuff. Or you could build that and not build the pickleball courts, but you need to have a general overall direction that you're going in. So that's, I'm assuming this meeting is about going to address pickleball courts. And that's what we came up with on the plan, what Poston came up with. I'm trying for the RPAC meeting next month. However, that's pretty quick, and I don't want to get careless and do something that, you know, miss something or something like that. But I got an RFP, request for proposals, ready. I'm not sure it's good, it's just a draft to put out for, but there again, town council has never actually said, yes, we'd like to. I mean, I get several smiles, and Councilman Member Wilson gets several smiles, but no one's ever said, yes, let's build a pickleball court. So I guess we're down to the wire.
We're either going to or not.
RPAC funds, do you want to build a pickleball court, or you want to go in another direction?
I appreciate all the work that Phil has done on this, and I was involved in the meeting with Mr. Polston up there, and they still needed a general idea of the future in there in terms of planning, so because it will affect future things that we do. I know this is a pretty significant task going forward, but I think Phil has done a yeoman's job in pulling together, probably on the RFP, it needs to be maybe refined a little bit and a few things, but he was talking about splitting it up into two different RFPs, correct, Phil? For the lighting on one and the construction of the courts is another.
We're still, and I looked at that, and Councilmember Wilson and I discussed it. I've got a quote from Central Contracting, and I got a quote from one of the court builders, and then Excavation Point came back at around $49,000 to lay the asphalt. They use a special kind of smooth asphalt, no recycled stuff.
Yeah, it's virgin asphalt, nothing
Yeah.
recycled in it. There's a certain mix, and the asphalt is significantly cheaper than concrete, but it has to be done just right, and the tolerances are very precise. And Phil has learned more about pickleball than he wants, but he's got the Bible of court dimensions and sizes and requirements for all that. But it would be my recommendation, and I know it's pretty ambitious to go before the next, it's in February, but I would like to see us move forward on this project and authorize Phil to go ahead and put this out for a RFP and try to get it before the next meeting of RPAC and see if we can get this submitted in.
Second.
I always go back to the swales and lost area and retentions. And just looking at the picture, I don't know how deep these swales are. Is there something we could do to not cut everything off and have swales cutting off property like that? Make the one swale wider, closer to the lots, or further out, closer to from the courts there? I know I don't know if it'll make a difference price-wise in the whole project, and I'm fine with continuing to do an RFP for it. But that kind of stuff drives me crazy, cutting ourselves out of property.
Well, that's unfortunately,
Part of the,
that's part of the world we live in.
It doesn't have to be. The line that cuts down off to the side could be combined with the one that goes against the pavilion and the building, make it wider, a little deeper. Instead of having two of them with an open area in the middle, you can't really do anything, you're cutting yourself off. I mean, those are the kind of things, just like the retention down by the lake. It drives me insane to see wasted property that we now won't be able to access. Could we make that whole area a 6-inch lower area instead of having a moat around it? Just an opinion. I hate seeing wasted space, but I'm fine with the project, and I'm fine going on with it and getting a price on it.
okay.
From this, if you decide to go to the pickleball court, Poston will go out for the Southwest Florida Water Management permit, get it permitted. Like I say, it's what he told me was that you don't have to get it. you
This
don't
is
have to build
engineering,
the
Greg.
other.
And I've dealt with engineering for years. And that's
No,
why
no.
I have a French drain at my place. This can be dealt with differently. It's not a part of the main deal. It's a little side deal, and I'll be happy to talk to Polston about it when the time comes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be like that. As long as you have your retention area at a certain square foot for the acreage you're taking out, it doesn't matter where it goes. That swell along there, I don't see where it makes a difference. As long as you're moving the water from the courts
I think you'll find that
to the north.
it'll be okay.
Just an opinion, not
No,
to
no,
waste
no,
property. It's
no,
a huge
no,
waste
no,
of
I
property. You're
understand
looking
your-
at taking an acre away from a tight spot close to the lake already. So we'll just see where it ends up. It's fine. The swells are a terrible design.
Mr. Sapp, for Ms. Hayes and I's benefit anyways, what you're talking about is you would like to see, if we're gonna, when we move forward, that the engineer look at how
Rethink
do
the
we,
swell design,
how do
yeah.
we redo the swell design and have one bigger swale or one slightly deeper swale than this labyrinth of swales? Is that
Make that
accurate?
whole area, 4-inch depressed area.
Yeah.
To hold the water long enough.
Right.
Instead of moating it out and cutting us out. You can't access that whole area, which could potentially be parking in the future or something different. I know we're wasting time here, but it drives me crazy, and
I will say, I understand your frustration. I also take your point, I think is well taken, that if there is a better way to do whatever the necessary water management mandated BS there is, that we do that and not, to your point, ruin a whole area with a series of swales, so. I guess from my perspective, the reason I seconded Mr. Wilson's motion was just to keep moving, and that we weren't approving this exact engineering design. We would move forward with the project and.
yeah, we're just looking for prices to get an idea to have a greater discussion later, and I agree with that. I'm fine, but I always have to point out the silly things that drive me nuts with an engineer.
Did we give up on parking in the area?
But we already have parking on the one side,
Yeah, we're not adding any parking, we're using existing parking.
but if you're having an event there during a softball tournament, Little League tournament, it's gonna be super tight. And we could potentially put parking in that area down the road.
But I don't think now, from what I read, I don't think we
There's a
can have
ton
a
of room on
tournament
the other
because you
side
gotta
of
have
the park, for
16.
that matter.
You gotta have 16 courts for a tournament, right?
The issue I was trying to address is figuring out where things go, not deciding to do parking today. But do we need to move it over to the left or right so we can still have room for parking, the efficient use of the total place? Because I know parking was the concern earlier, and that seems to have just gone away. And I didn't know whether that was the decision, no parking in the area, take your boat home, or whether we need to move this around some. I was not saying don't build it at all. I think that was to Greg's point, is could the swales be done in a way that would accommodate a parking facility in the future? Not now.
And it'll cost us the same to do it here or 200 feet further up the property. So we just need to get a price right now, which is all we're asking for, so.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you in terms of moving it around where it's, works the best for parking and that's not an issue. And I understand what you're talking about with the swells and everything. But as far as parking too, for baseball tournaments and everything, there's a gob of parking on the other side.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that.
Charlie, did you make a motion?
Yes, sir.
And you
Seconded, yes,
seconded
sir.
it?
Ray did.
So we have a
Ray did.
motion and a second?
Yes, sir.
Are there any other comments?
Oh, just to add, Phil also made a survey on the town's website, and you probably saw it in there. As of today, it was 203, Phil?
There's 202 responses at this point in time. These surveys are something that you put before RPAC and petitions, almost everything I've seen put before.
It helps with the scoring on their procedural thing, having this documentation.
There've been some that just said yes and everything, and that's me testing right up here, but for the most part, you got names and pretty good support. One person someplace said no, so.
It wasn't me.
They didn't leave a name
It
either.
wasn't me either.
99%ers said yes, so.
So let me say in support of my second that I saw Ms. Hart's comments about TDC and needing more courts. I envision in the future, and I know this is not in the suite of things that TDC perceives are going to do, but I think Lake Placid in the future, we're going to have facilities that we may not be the sole site for a tournament, whether it's pickleball or soccer or lacrosse or whatever. And I'm reminded that, you go to other places and they have multiple venues, even in the same town for tournaments. And, we're only 15 minutes from the venues in Sebring. So it may be in the future, whether it's this or anything else, that what we start to do is we're a partner in some of these tournaments and we're hosting it, and they have 8 courts here and they have 8 courts in Sebring. So I would not close out asking TDC. They are bringing in significant resources from that hotel tax fund. And they did a study and they generally like this park facility. And so even if it's not this round of funding, we need to keep pressing on them. And maybe when we're doing parking, whether it's for fishing tournaments or baseball tournaments or girls lacrosse, we ought to keep TDC in mind and ask them to make some investments in the town of Lake Placid's recreational complex.
Okay. Any other comments? Take it to the audience. Bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Second, yes, sorry.
Councilmember Sapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Okay. The only other thing here, I need to apologize to Ms. Bush. Her paperwork got buried. So at this time, I'd ask Ms. Jennifer Bush to come forward. She has a request.
Jennifer Bush with the Greater Lake Placid Chamber of Commerce. Once again, I was here last month. We are getting ready for the Country Fair, which is February 4th and 5th. We'll be utilizing Devane Park, and this is regarding our banners that will hang on the north and south welcome signs. Just wanted to make sure it was at that last month. We were leaving it. It was approved pending the LPA approval.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we
I
approve
do have
their
the proper
application
permit
for banner placement at the times as applied for.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? See none from the podium, go to the audience. Poll the council.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp.
Yes.
Thank
I will
you.
sign this right now.
It's going up tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. It'll go up the 22nd.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to comment too on our code enforcement. If you look at what properties with that. If you look at, it's being cleaned up as we speak. Mr. Brower's property on North Main Street, and this is, the
South Main.
top photograph is the photograph of before, and this is the photograph after. It's still a work in progress, but he's being made finally to clean up his property.
Was that a
So,
code enforcement action? Was that a code enforcement action? Bravo.
Excellent.
well, thank you
Very
to
good.
our code enforcement officer and the chief for making that happen. I have to admit, I'd lost hope we were ever going to see that get cleaned up.
Absolutely, yep, super, good work.
Thank you all.
He's been on it for what, 5 years? At least 3. Yep, so just letting you know about that.
Okay. We'll go to our directors. Chief, you got nothing? Kevin? No? Joe?
Say something just to make James sit here a little bit longer. The Lake Placid Camp and Conference Center project, I think we've made quite a bit of headway, and I'm expecting that project, after a couple minor plan revisions, probably to go out to bid soon for the force main part that's going down Lake Drive East. We also received, Councilman Royce will be happy to hear, DEO has done their review on the pipe bursting project. Fortunately, there's a couple tiny changes that we got to get made, and then that one should also be out to bid. So we'll have some projects out to bid and hopefully be starting on construction on a few of those soon.
And then there were some issues with Taco Bell and Mr. LaRue, but those, I think, have been worked out.
Yeah, Taco Bell has made their initial application, and they have an item or two that's probably going to need a variance from council. So they're trying to figure out what that process looks like. Probably have to go in front of LPA as well. So that should be coming to you soon.
Okay. All right. Rachel? Okay. All right, we'll take it to the audience. Is there any comments from the audience? All right, we'll bring it back to council. We'll start with you, ma'am.
Nothing?
Nothing? Okay.
I hope everyone had a nice holiday. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Phil Williams. Phil on a day-to-day basis just has to deal with a myriad of requests from people, and I just want to say, I don't know that I publicly enough thank Phil for all he does on behalf of the town, so thank you, Phil.
Yeah. Charlie?
I agree with that.
Okay.
I see there's a resolution on here, 1E, for the maintenance of the highway. Do we need to approve that before we close?
Skip that.
It was in the.
That was part of the
consent agenda.
consent
Part of the
agenda.
consent.
That's part of that, good.
Yeah.
That is a standard 3-year, you can tell it went up a little bit. The funding is a standard maintenance, kind of like the beautification that we get from.
That state contract, how it can be 50 pages to say what it did, it's ridiculous.
Gotten longer and longer.
Gosh.
Mr. Mayor,
The lawyers have helped.
Mr. Mayor, can I say one other thing, and especially with Ms. Bush here? We, Mr. Harris and others initiated the vegetative improvement plan along 27 and other areas. And Keep Lake Placid Beautiful met the other day, and we are now working to work on some of those stuff. And I think that the sheriff's office now is going to get re-engaged with providing work crews to do some cleanup in those vegetative islands, get some fertilizer out. I know I had a conversation with Harry, and he says that the town has adequate or will get adequate fertilizer, but wanted to thank Ms. Bush for her efforts with Keep Lake Placid Beautiful, and thank Sheriff Blackman, Captain Pendarvis, and the others for getting ready to bring some help down here to keep that vegetation up. The town will have to do some work, and I know Harry mentioned that the town fixed some irrigation that the road construction crews had destroyed, and I think the town sought reimbursement for that cost from the contractor, at least that's what Harry told me. And I know in talking to Mr. Harris, and now I'm looking at Mr. Barber, as we put together a new wastewater plant, there's a great opportunity for us to put some more purple pipe in the ground and be able to better irrigate, the vegetation in the medians and on the sides of US 27 and other areas. So I think that's what kind of sets our town a little bit apart here in Highlands County. So I hope we continue to do everything we can to keep the level of care for those trees and bushes up. Thank you.
And also after the last meeting, and when FDOT was here, and there was some concerns about what they wanted to do at Heartland Boulevard and 27, we did send them a letter explaining our position and what we'd like to see done there and in view of what they wanted to do. And the response we got is they would send it to the proper authorities to be considered. So we'll just have to see what happens in that respect, but hopefully they'll see our point of view and hopefully do what we ask.
I'd like to return my book to Phil, maybe so that from the rowing thing, we had to return that, so I'd like to be checked off the list. I have returned and read my book.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
I read the sections of the book,
I need a report for myself.
appropriate sections. Most especially the epilogue was very, very, very good summary of everything.
I don't read for fun, and that's like less than fun reading that, so.
Yeah, it's a nice book. I read appropriate portions.
If they made a movie, I would watch it.
All right, Mr. Attorney, do you have anything?
Not a word, thank you.
Okay,
Boy, write that
all
down.
right. Where'd it go?
It would be a lot more fun if they were fishing, at least go in a fly rod.
Okay. If there's no more business come for town council, meeting adjourned.